right, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the beautiful campus of UCLA. Go Bruins. All right. It is so good to see so many of you here today. We are incredibly excited about the opportunity to be in this conversation. I'm D'Artagnan Scorza. I lead the County of Los Angeles' Chief Executive Office Anti-Racism, Diversity, and Inclusion Initiative. And I'm incredibly excited to have an opportunity to be in this conversation today to understand how identity-based hate and violence occurs here in the county, and more specifically to focus on the ways in which online hate and hate perpetration affects so many of us. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the Anti-Racism, Diversity, and Inclusion Initiative, it was created in July of 2020 after the death of George Floyd, where the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors created a board-directed priority, which is an initiative in the county. It's essentially an organizational unit that's housed within the Chief Executive Office to help articulate and advance an anti-racism policy agenda. And for those of us who are not familiar with anti-racism, it's really about proactively identifying and eliminating racism, hate, and all of the forms of bias that many of our organizations and communities might face. And in doing so, the board established a very clear policy approach to ensure that the county and our region more broadly takes these issues on. ARDI, as we are known, really focuses on a few primary areas, and that's to help folk in the county and throughout our region understand how to build capacity to do this work. So we provide a lot of training, technical assistance and support for our county departments and local government agencies, as well as through partnerships with a whole host of community-based organizations. We provide data collection and analysis, reporting, so that's really performance management and accountability, looking specifically at the ways in which data can influence and shape how we tell the story about what's going on in the county. We're providing for technical assistance and planning. And so as I mentioned earlier, we look specifically at the ways in which strategy or the ways in which we go about meeting our goals can help shape the world around us. We also have equity-infused resourcing and programming. So that's matching and mirroring how the county uses its resources to close gaps in life outcomes, to ultimately allocate our resources in ways that meet the needs of people who are who are facing significant negative life outcomes. We engage folk in community to ensure that folk with lived experience, or that the voice of those we aim to serve are at the decision-making table, that we are co-governing in ways that are meaningful for folk in community, and then also policy analysis and development. Really, as a policy shop, ARDI is deeply committed to helping drive policy change both within our county departments, but also throughout the entire region. For those of you who may not be familiar with ARDI, we were the team that helped to bring about Bruce's Beach, which was the first time in 100 years a Black family's land was returned. It was a form of restitution to address the historical harms that emerged from racial animus right next door here in Manhattan Beach. We've done a lot of work on environmental sustainability, done a lot of work to help make sure that things like sexually transmitted infections are being addressed in an equitable way. There are a lot of things that we do within the county to ensure that ultimately equity and equality are deeply infused within our agencies and throughout the entire region. Now, the Board of Supervisors directed that we take this work on very intentionally during the pandemic. We had a number of incidents that led to a rise in anti-Asian hate and violence. And the board came to us at ARDI and they said, hey, we really need to tackle this issue throughout the entire region. And so what they did in 2021 is they directed, I was here about 6 months, by the way, and so I just moved to the county. They had directed us to take on an effort to really understand sort of what were the root causes leading to the rise in anti-Asian hate and violence. And many of you know at the time, there was a lot of political rhetoric around the origin of the virus, and that had led to an increased level of hate and violent incidents in and throughout the region. We partnered with a number of community-based organizations to put forward a set of recommendations, which also led to the development of and creation of an equity and diversity fund. that has basically funded today. And so I want to thank our County Board of Supervisors for investing in this work. Since then, the board has said, take on anti-LGBTQ plus hate. And fortunately, they had the foresight of creating our LGBTQ plus commission here in the county, which is led by one of our executive directors here today. They also directed that we look at the role that emergency, look at the way in which we can help secure the safety of our sites after a number of anti-Jewish hate incidents occurred in and throughout the region. So they directed us to address the need for Jewish community safety, as well as deal with anti-Blackness, not only by proclaiming African American History Month in the County of Los Angeles, but providing training that helped mitigate bias, because we know that African Americans are actually still the top community facing incidents of hate and violence within Los Angeles County. And then finally, they directed us to put forward a comprehensive and proactive strategy to not just look at this for one community or another community, but to think about the role that the county can play comprehensively. And so we put forward a set of recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. And one of the things that we learned was that a lot of the times these hate and violence incidents emerge online, right? And they jump off from what happens online into the real world. And that often contributes to many of the challenges we see today. So we've developed a set of resources and guides that we'll make available to you all. We hope that you're able to use these resources, including a broader community safety resource guide, which helps you understand what resources are available here and throughout the region so that you know where you can go if you ever experience an incident yourself or if you know someone who has. So you can visit that website up there at ceo.lacounty.gov/RD/combating-hate. And then we created a Jewish community safety resource guide and a community sensitive site safety blueprint. What I really like about the site safety blueprint is that it helps you think about how to harden your sites. It helps you think about all the sort of factors that you need to consider when you're hosting an event. Some of this work came out of an incident that one of our supervisors, your supervisor here for UCLA, Supervisor Lindsay Horvath, experienced when she went to an event honoring the trans community at a San Fernando Valley library. There are a number of people that had organized online. They had pulled together a counter protest, had showed up to this event to shut down what was called a drag story night at the library. And there wasn't significant law enforcement there. Although law enforcement was present, the number of protesters that showed up overwhelmed the law enforcement officers who were there. And as the supervisor was trying to leave, there was a woman who pushed her baby behind her car to try and prevent her from leaving. And that highlighted for her the importance of addressing site safety. And so our team, in partnership with our Office of Emergency Management and a host of the DA's office and a number of county agencies, our Office of Violence Prevention, the Human Relations Commission, and others, put together these resources, especially this community-sensitive site safety blueprint, to help folks think about how you can protect and secure your sites whenever you want to host activities within the community. One of the things that we came up with in reviewing this comprehensive and developing this comprehensive strategy was recognizing how important it is to address the current political environment and the digital trends that emerge from this political environment. Going on sites like 4chan or 8chan or Discord or Reddit, where we see really negative rhetoric emerging in those spaces that essentially jump off from those forums into real life. It's led to political violence and attempts on people's lives, as well as the death of some of our civic leaders in and around the region. We also realize that we need to actually have real strategies to support victims and to protect survivors. That often, while there are victim services that the county provides as a regional entity, really if you're walking down the street and you're holding hands with your partner who may be of the same sex and someone accosts you or they may harass you, other than reporting to law enforcement, there may not be a lot of resources to help you recover or navigate through those challenges. And so we have to think strategically about how we help people get through issues when they emerge, or if someone puts a hateful symbol on your car or in your neighborhood, there isn't a lot of recourse, and so the county is exploring how we can address those issues. We also need to have county and multi-jurisdictional coordination, so between our cities and our local school districts where hate and bullying incidents occur on campus, to make sure that we're thinking strategically about how we can use data and increase data accuracy and reporting to help improve strategies to protect communities and victims, as well as to address perpetrators of violence. We need to prevent, and really this is how we can get ahead of it. We need to focus on specifically prevention and promotion. If you think about prevention and promotion, how it's defined, prevention is stopping bad things from happening, and promotion is helping good things occur. And so when you keep it that simple, really thinking about prevention and promotion from in this domain helps us consider what we can do to help bring people together, right? Build a sense of connection in our communities, but to also make sure that we are providing targeted programs and services in schools, anti-bully training, where we're helping to, teach people about, trans rights, right? There are a lot of things that we can actually do to help advance a prevention and promotion agenda in and throughout our region. Teaching people how to engage in dialogue across difference, et cetera. As you saw with our community sensitive site safety blueprint, we have to secure our community gatherings. And I know sometimes we don't want to think about this, right? We don't want to think about the harms and the dangers that could approach us when we're hosting these events, but we have to appreciate the fact that the best way for us to protect ourselves is to be prepared. Is to not, put our hands in the sand and to ignore the potential for a threat, but to really, assess what challenges, what might we face, given the type of work that we're deeply, concerned about, and given how important it is to do this work and how important it is to protect people and to ensure their safety when we have our community gatherings. And then finally, folks, we have to invest in this work. Investing in this work is incredibly essential to ensure that we do everything we can here in Los Angeles to make it safe and secure for all of our families, and to make it a place where not only we feel like we belong, but where we know that we're included and that there are opportunities to live out our fullest selves and our fullest lives. Now, I want to appreciate how important it is for us to be in this conversation, especially in this moment, in the midst of this environment. Often, folk have said, we should go down, we should be quiet, we shouldn't say anything, but this is the time more than ever where we really need to stand up for what's right. We have to do what's right by each other and build a community here in Los Angeles that takes care of one another amidst all of the challenges we see happening across the country, but also those that are occurring and in many ways self-made, happening really at the federal level. And so we've been having this conversation. I want to thank our friends at Badari for their incredible work, David Myers, Amelia, Maya, and their team, for being our incredible partners, along with the researchers that have been involved in helping to not only educate folk in our county workforce about what the landscape of online hate has been, or social media and the relationship between identity-based hate and violence in youth, or even understand how perpetrators of hate think and how they, in many ways, engage with our communities or may try and commit harm with our communities, to really help us understand all of that so that we can ultimately address these challenges. And today, in the fourth series of this identity-based hate and violence training effort, we're happy to welcome you to this symposium. This symposium is really intended to help us think about the practices and policies we can adopt to address identity-based hate and violence. And so again, I want to extend my deepest appreciation to Badari and their team, as well as my team and Artie for helping to put this on, and in partnership with so many others in the county. I want to thank you all for being here, our county family and staff, as well as UCLA partners and community partners who are present with us today, to help us think about how we can really take these issues head on and ultimately improve conditions and outcomes for all of our families and communities. So if you want to learn more about this work, I invite you to visit our website again at ceo.lacounty.gov. You can also pull up your phones and use the QR code. It'll take you straight there. You can learn more about the many reports that we put out on this, as well as the active steps we are taking to address identity-based hate and violence here and throughout the region. And so if you have any additional questions, you can feel free to contact our team lead, Mark Lee, our senior analyst, who has really been an incredible leader helping to drive and sustain change for this body of work in the county. Now, think about this as we prepare to go into the World Cup and FIFA and the Olympics. Think about the type of Los Angeles we want the world to see and to recognize. If it's not us that's standing up to make sure that we have an inclusive and represent a diverse and thoughtful and empathetic community, then who will it be? So I invite you all today to think about what your role will be as LA begins to step onto the world stage in an even bigger way as we begin to host these world events, and to also recognize that we got to get prepared and make sure that the folk here in this county, in this region, are cared for, are taken care of, and have the support they need to thrive. So with that being said, I'd like to go ahead and welcome up here David Myers from Bedard.
Thank you, D'Artagnan. Hi, everybody. It's really great to see you. My name is David Myers. I teach history here at UCLA and direct the UCLA Bedard Kindness Institute, which contains within it the initiative to study hate and the Dialogue Across Difference initiative. So we have three pillars: the study of kindness, the study of hate, and the Dialogue Across Difference initiative. What we really aim to do is to support and foster cutting-edge, cross-disciplinary scholarship and research into hate and kindness, which in some sense are one of the great drivers of and a potential remedy to the grave ails that plague society, hate and kindness. We sort of see them as deeply and inextricably linked, and research into them has proven to be a really extraordinary development here at UCLA. Some of you may wonder, how much can we actually research things like kindness? And yet, over the course of the last 4 years or so, we've developed a research community of about 130 scholars devoted to the study of hate, and over the last 7 or 8 years, an additional 40 to 50 scholars studying kindness. So we have this robust community of researchers at UCLA devoted to the study of hate and kindness, which they often see as poles on a spectrum that can be, in fact, researched with great depth and to great and effective results. If any of you are interested in knowing more about what we do at UCLA, I want to invite you all to our Impact Symposium, when we reveal to you some of the most important findings over the course of the past academic year. It's going to take place on June 3rd in this very room, so at this very time. So please, if you can carve out an additional 4 hours in your schedule, please do think about that. There are flyers outside for you to take a look at, and even coming for just a portion and up on the screen with the QR code, exactly. In addition to studying and cultivating research into hate and kindness, we also, through our Dialogue Across Difference initiative, are very interested in finding new ways to build alliances, coalitions, and bridges, especially to those with whom we are not inclined to agree on many things. And we do that both through research and through training. So training alongside research is a major pillar of what we do at BKI, at the Bedard Kindness Institute. And it is that which has brought us into partnership with RD over the course of the past year. We've been able, together with RD, to produce the online training sessions as well as this symposium. And I want to thank the RD team for the partnership, for the collaboration, and for enabling us to share our extraordinary community of researchers with all of you. We think we have really precious assets that should not remain contained within the bounds of our campus. And so we're really delighted to join together with RD on this project, and I thank D'Artagnan and the RD team for all the hard work they have put in. I also want to acknowledge our own BKI team, and especially the indefatigable Dr. Amaya Mora, who really went above and beyond the call to enable us to be here, and to be here as comfortably and as well organized as we are. So what I would say in conclusion is, when you leave today, you will have learned a good deal. But what I'd like you to know is that we here at UCLA are your partners in our shared mission to generate knowledge in order to better society. That's a shared goal of ours. And as D'Artagnan suggested, there's never been a more urgent time. Now that's a refrain we hear often, in periods of tension. It recurs, but it may well be the case, and I offer some measure of historical perspective on this as an historian. It may be that we have not been in as fraught a place in this society in modern times. So we have a very tall order, and yet we have these budding partnerships that should grow into even more robust partnerships in order to advance our shared goals. I look forward to hearing from our UCLA researchers and our county staff and activists, and really seeing what we can do, how we can mobilize that partnership into precisely the kind of results that we think are so urgent to advance in society today. So again, welcome to all of you to UCLA. We look forward to a very stimulating afternoon, and should your schedule permit it, please do join us on June 3rd as well. Thanks very much.